Alrighty, so today we are going to do a video looking at 5 storyline heading into Decision Day 2024 in the MLS regular season. And I'm not gonna lie, compared to previous season, I feel like this season heading to Decision Day, it's not as crazy and drama filled as we've seen in previous year. Now that doesn't mean there are no interesting storyline heading into Decision Day. There's still some very interesting storyline, and obviously the number one storyline I think heading into Decision Day is no doubt the Eastern Conference playoff race. So I think this is something that everyone saw coming. I saw this coming too, as pretty much for the entire season we've been talking about how jam-packed the Eastern Conference is, especially near the bottom of the standings, and it feels like it's been a battle between those two playoff spot, or at least the two final playoffs spot in the Eastern Conference for the past couple of months. And as expected, not many teams really kind of separate each other to a point where it was only just a couple of weeks ago where we started to see teams finally getting eliminated, and now it's kind of setting up this final day where we're gonna have 4 teams that is battling for those two wild card spot and those two play-in spot. You got the team that currently in the driver's seat with Montreal and DC United, and then the team that is on the outside looking in, that is Philadelphia and Atlanta United. Now for DC, they of course are playing against Charlotte FC heading into the final day. For Montreal, they're placing against NYCFC at home. For Philly, they're going to be playing against FC Cincinnati, and Atlanta, I think, is the only team out of those 4 teams that I mentioned heading into decision day that unfortunately will have to go on the road where they be facing against Orlando City. And it's also important to note the fact that those 2 teams that is above the standing, they actually have a pretty good cushion. They actually have a 3 points gap. But what's kind of interesting is those teams below them not only has a better wins total, but they also have the goal differential in terms of the head to head. So there could be a case where both of those 2 teams, if both of them loses and the team in the bottom, or not in the bottom two, but just below the red line, were able to win, then those 2 teams that is looking outside, and all of a sudden they would be playing in a play-in round, instead of those two teams that is currently above the red line right now. But there's no doubt that both DC and Montreal, their job is pretty simple. Just don't lose on decision day. If they don't lose, they will be facing off against each other in the playing round. But if they do lose, that does open the door up, and especially open the door up for the Philadelphia Union, who not only they need to win, but they just need one of those 2 teams to lose so that they can sneak into the playoffs. Atlanta has a lot that needs to go right for them. They would really need the scenario that I mentioned before, where they really need both of those teams to lose, and they needing to win on the road against Orlando to get themselves above the red line. But yeah, this should be very interesting to see how the playoff race is. I mean, for DC and Montreal, both of those teams, they're not facing against easy opponent in their final game. I mean, Charlotte still technically have something to play when it comes to home field advantage in the first round. NYCFC, of course, another team that is also doing the same case. Orlando, I don't think they really have anything to play for, but it's a rivalry game between Orlando and Atlanta, so there's still something to play for. And then, the Philly against Cincinnati. We know Philly does play well against Cincinnati, and even though Cincinnati don't really have anything to play for, they're a team that is still definitely just playing for any sort of momentum heading into the playoffs, because they've been going through bit of a free fall heading into the playoffs. So yeah, should be very interesting to see the Eastern Conference playoff race, and it's going to be remind me of those previous decision day, whether it's coming from the East or the West in terms of who's going to sneak into the playoffs, and there should be some jostling in terms of possession as we go along. Number two. And that, of course, is Vancouver and Minnesota battling out to stay out of the playing round. So obviously, I didn't put the Portland Timbers on this list because the Portland Timbers is pretty much guaranteed to be playing in the playing round. Now, whether if that game is at Providence Park, or if that game is going to be playing either at BC Place or Allianz Field, depending on who's going to, of course, finish in the 8th position, that is still to be determined. But one thing for sure is the fact that yeah, Vancouver and Minnesota, both of these team would definitely don't want to play in the stay out of the playoffs. I'm sorry, I wrote it wrong here. Stay out of the playing game. That is, both of these teams don't want to stay out of the playoffs. Both of these teams already made it to the playoffs, but yeah, certainly both of these teams want to stay out of the playing game. I mean, it's good to of course make it into the playoffs, but obviously you want to guarantee yourself to be in the first round, which is also big too with this current format because that will basically guarantee you to have a home game knowing the best of three series. So yeah, there's no doubt that both of these teams want to stay out of it. Minnesota, of course, playing against St. Louis on the final day. I didn't check to see who Vancouver, of course, is playing on the final day. But yeah, for Minnesota, all they need is I believe all they need is a draw against St. Louis, and that should be enough to get them stay out of the playing round. Obviously, if they can get a win, that pretty much guarantee it. They can still lose their game against St. Louis and still stay out of the playing game, but that also means Vancouver cannot get a win in order to do so. Vancouver has to get a win if they are able to stay out of the playing round, and this is why the previous game against LAFC, that was a huge blow in terms of their chances of not have to worry about the playing game. Because if they would have won that game, not only they get themselves back into seventh position and knock Minnesota into that play in game, but the fact that now they're the one that control the destiny in terms of not have to play in the playing round. But they obviously didn't win that game. They didn't even get a draw in that game. They actually lost that game and drop all 3 points, and now Minnesota is the one that control the destiny in terms of not have to play in the play-in round. Number three, and that of course is big rivalry game, and this is something that I think this is going to be debated as we'll see these big rivalry game that is happening on decision day, and that obviously I think the schedule maker originally they want to make these big rivalry games, thinking that there was still a lot that is at stake, and there's no doubt that some of these games there are still some that is at stake, but for most part, not really. Though obviously the highlight in terms of the big rivalry game is the Cascadia Derby. I think this is the first time we've seen the Cascadia Derby happening on decision day. Both Portland and Seattle is going to face off against each other. I believe this game is going to be at Lumen Field if I'm not mistaken, and that I mean it is a big rivalry game. Though Seattle is pretty much locked where they are in the standings, whereas for Portland, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. They're going to have to play in the play-in round either way. Though they still have a chance to play at Providence Park if they are able to get the win against Seattle, and I think Vancouver lose their game if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that should be very interesting, and especially I think the other thing that is big is the Cascadia Cup. I think the Cascadia Cup is also up in grabs in this big rivalry game as well. Obviously, we got Atlanta and Orlando City. Orlando, that even though they don't have anything to play for, they would love nothing more to knock Atlanta out of the playoffs. So certainly they'll probably go full stream in that game. The same goes in the game between Philly and Cincinnati. It's not really considered a geographical rivalry, but let's be honest. For a long time, I would think the Union and Cincinnati is considered a rival, considering that it's pretty much a rivalry between master versus apprentice. A lot of Cincinnati ideas, and also their coaching staff, and even some players too, used to play for the Philadelphia Union. So yeah, it's really kind of a master versus apprentice kind of battle as well. And again, these big rivalry game that is happening on decision day. Again, you can debate among yourself whether or not if it is a good idea. It's almost kind of like a risk where you're hoping that these big rivalry game will generate some big kind of playoff aspiration as we see in some of these games, but there's also times where it really quite doesn't, and then when it really doesn't, it just feels like it's just kind of one last hurrah for a team that has nothing to play for to at least get the better of their team if they are already going to be eliminated from the playoffs. Now, number four, it's got to be the points record battle, and I think this is also a pretty big headline. And by the way, these storyline is not ranked. I think if it is ranked, I think the Eastern Conference playoff race is number one, but the second one has to be the points record battle. And what fitting way the fact that Inter Miami has a chance to get the most points in MLS history in the regular season. where they face against the team that currently has that record, that is the New England Revolution. And even though New England pretty much has nothing to play for, and you would expect they get absolutely smoked by Inter Miami in this game, knowing the fact that this game is at Chase Stadium, this is where it gets interesting. Where if you're Tata Martino, do you really want to go for this points record? I mean, you already secured the supporter shield, and it would be nice to, of course, get the points record. But do you risk it, knowing the fact that they are actually going to be the first team to play in the first round, so they get a shorter rest compared to all the other team that play in a first round match starting on Friday. So do you even think about risking it, knowing that you definitely do not want to lose one of your star player heading into the playoffs as well. And they face against a New England team that, again, not only pride is at a big point, but the last thing New England wants, and the last thing I'm pretty sure Revs fans want, is to see their points record taken away by the team on the final day of the season. So that's going to be a very interesting story. There is no doubt that New England is going to do everything and anything to protect that record, but it's not going to be easy to do because not only they have to go on the road in this game, but getting points against Inter Miami is as rare as it gets this season. But again, that depends on whether or not if Tata Martino is thinking that the points record means a lot to this team and decide to really go for it by starting a strong team, or the fact that he's thinking the long game, that if you it's great to, of course, have the points record, but obviously the playoffs and getting MLS Cup is more vital and more important. And plus, even if they don't start their strongest team, this team still has the capability of able to win games. I mean, you saw it happen against Toronto FC on the road, where they didn't really play most of their star player until like late in the game, and still were able to get the win as well. And that win that they had wasn't really because of those big name player coming into the team and make a difference. The goal scorer of that day was Leo Campana against Toronto FC. He pretty much played for the full game. So yeah, there is no doubt that this is going to be interesting to see whether or not if we're going to have another points record broken by Inter Miami, passing New England mark that they set back in the 2021 season. Now at number five, and of course this home field advantage, at least in the first round of the playoffs. So again, in the West is pretty much all settled. At least I don't think anybody from fifth to fourth can fifth place can climb to fourth position. But in the East, there oh, actually I wrote West here. It should be East. But yeah, in the East, it could still be up for grabs right now. I mean, actually, if I look in the standings right now, real quick, right now, in fourth position, we got Orlando City. So I say Orlando City doesn't have anything to play for. That's actually not true. They actually have something to play for to keep themselves in the fourth position, which is very important because they'll get home field advantage in the first round. NYCFC, of course, not far behind them. And actually, you know how I said Charlotte has a chance to get that home field advantage? That's actually not true. Charlotte actually can't finish as high as fifth place. So it really is between Orlando and NYCFC in terms of where they, of course, get home field advantage. And it's also kind of interesting that both of those teams will have faith in terms of how their opponent will be, whether or not they make it to the playoffs or not, because the teams that both of these teams will be facing are those teams I mentioned that as part of that four team playoff race in the Eastern Conference heading into the final day. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of my video. Look at the five storyline heading into decision day. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video. Of course, I want to mention some honorable mention. I guess you could say the Golden Boot race could be one, even though technically we kind of know who's gonna win the Golden Boot race. It's gonna be Christian Benteke, unless if Denis Bouanga just go crazy. And the same goes for Cucho Hernandez, scoring tons of goals to at least catch Christian Benteke, who has a 4 goal cushion heading into the final day of the season. Benteke is probably going to win the Golden Boot this year. The MVP race is also kind of interesting. Again, there's been a lot of debate. Is it going to be Messi, or is it going to be Cucho, or is it even going to be Evander to be in the MVP race? I do think that if I was voting, I would put Cucho in there, and I know no Inter Miami fans and Messi fans will be upset about this, but I know Messi has put up some really good numbers doing his limited time, but I I would say that what Cucho has been doing for Columbus is just absolutely unreal this season, and that again his number is a little bit better than what Messi is, and that again there's that debate of do you give the MVP award to a player that has have those good numbers over throughout the season, or do you give the MVP award to a player that's been on the injury reserve, haven't really play a full season? In fact, Messi pretty much have missing half of the games so far this season, but still put up some really godly number. That's going to be an interesting debate once they decide who's going to be the Landon Donovan MVP of this season. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.